We are going to Texas Capitol, you guys.
So we were one of the first states to implement electronic voting in 1922. See if you can see what word is spelled out in the lights.
Texas.
Because we do want you to know which capital you're in.
Welcome to JojoTV.
This is my work, my life, my book. This is my destiny. This is my destiny.
Good morning, you guys. Welcome to another episode of Flight Attendant Layover Vlog. Today we are here in Austin, Texas, you guys. As usual, I didn't really have any specific plan, but I think I know where I could go. And I will let you know that in a little bit, okay? I'll see you outside. We are going to Texas Capitol, you guys. That's what I choose. I made it here, you guys. It's actually 81 degrees Fahrenheit, you guys. It is super hot. I am sweating. But thank God I have this water with me because it was super hot. And look how glowing my sunscreen is. When I hit the sun, it gets shiny. But anyways, I'm gonna go, see? Super shiny. I'm gonna go around, and I think right now, I think this is the right place.
So if you have them, you can put them in a bag, or you're welcome to leave them outside on the steps here before we go in and just collect them as we head on out. Also, speaking of those steps, they are historically uneven, so please be mindful of those, and we will head right on in.
So cool.
So welcome to the Senate chamber. Here in Texas, we have 31 senators, and they sit at these original walnut desks. Now, they came here to us from a furniture company up in Chicago, Illinois in about 1890. So they've held up pretty well. We've taken pretty good care of them. You will see some modifications. There's a phone attached to the leg added during the 1970s so that the senators can call down to their offices. And there's also a microphone occupying a space originally designed for an inkwell. However, that became a little outdated, so, moving through the times, it is a microphone today. Now here in the Senate, they vote using a pretty traditional method. They can call out their votes with their voices, or they can raise a hand and hold up a finger. 1 for yes, 2 for no, or 3 for present but not voting or abstaining. It's a little bit different over in the House of Representatives chamber. There are 150 members, and it'd be a little bit harder to count all of those raised hands with that many people. So we were one of the first states to implement electronic voting in 1922. Their desks are original as well, although they're made of oak instead of walnut, and they have a voting panel where they can vote green for yes, red for no, or clear for present but not voting or abstaining. Now in the House, they're presided over by the Speaker, who is Dade Phelan, and here in the Senate, they're presided over by the Lieutenant Governor. Something we do here in Texas that's a little bit different from other states, our Lieutenant Governor and Governor are elected on separate tickets, so they can be of different political parties. Right now, Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick are both Republicans, but it has happened in the past where we have had one who's a Democrat and one who's a Republican. Now we do have a few more pieces of artwork in this room we're going to look at while we're in here. We'll start right up there in the center with that kind of smaller sized portrait of a man. That is Stephen F. Austin, and it is one of the few portraits we know that he posed for. It is that smaller size because it was actually for a residence instead of a big chamber like this. Now, keep going along this wall and you'll see a man wearing a white shirt and some khaki pants. Got his hand on his hip there in a pose that's really full of personality. That is Mirabeau Bonaparte Lamar, our second president of the Republic of Texas. And back in the Republic days, there was a little bit of back and forth about where the capital city of Texas should go. Sam Houston really liked the idea of Houston for some reason. But Lamar wanted a more centrally located capital. Now at that time, this location was actually a village, very small, known as Waterloo, but he really liked where it was in Texas, and especially the fact that it was located along a river. So he decides to move the capital here and change the name in honor of Stephen F. Austin, who has actually just passed away. He's a pretty big hero in Texas. He was very well respected, so nobody could complain about that. And that is why we are in Austin today instead of Houston or even the city of Waterloo. Now, if we keep going along this wall, you'll see a portrait of a woman dressed in blue. She has her hands folded in front of her, and that is Barbara Jordan. She was our first African-American woman elected to the Texas Senate in 1966. She goes on to serve in the United States House of Representatives. Now, the time she's there, the Watergate scandal is going on, and she's a very good speaker, and she actually ends up serving on the investigations committee for the Watergate scandal. She's actually buried here in our state cemetery in Austin at the Texas Hill of Heroes, right next to Stephen F. Austin. Now, if we keep going along this wall, you'll see a very tall painting of a man with his hand on a chair. That is Lyndon Baines Johnson, our first Texas-born president. And he actually never did serve in the Texas legislature, but he did have some relatives that did. So it was kind of a long-standing tradition. Now, keep going here and you'll see a young woman dressed all in white, and she's sewing. This is Joanna Troutman, and she was actually not from Texas. She was from Georgia, and she never set foot in Texas during her life. Now, she is still very important to Texas history, however. She is known as the Betsy Ross of Texas because she is probably where we get our Lone Star symbol from. Now, during the Revolution, a lot of states and even other countries had people come here to help out because they sympathized with the cause of independence. And Georgia was one of those states. They sent a battalion, and she actually had a friend who was a member of this battalion. So she sews them a banner, a white flag with a blue star in the center to carry as their standard. And we believe so much that this was the inspiration for the flag that she was actually reinterred in our state cemetery as well.
Great.
Now, It is actually very close to here, just across I-35, and I'm not sure how many blocks. Probably would be a little drive.
Right off of 35?
Yes, there's a big hill.
Open to the public?
Yes, it is. Yes. Tours over there as well.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned how many people were actually not from Texas during the Revolution. Well, the people who were known as Tejanos. Now, at the Battle of San Jacinto, there's a group of Tejanos led by a man named Juan Seguin, and he actually goes on to survive this battle and serves in the Texas Senate, as well as becomes the mayor of San Antonio. Now you'll see this group of Tejanos over on the other side in the very large painting and kind of a reinforcement position coming in. That battle takes place 6 weeks after this one behind me, Dawn at the Alamo, and both of these were painted by an Irish immigrant by the name of Henry McArdle. Now he was born the same year that the Texas Revolution occurred, so he becomes kind of fascinated by Texas history when he comes here. He's about 14 at that time, and it just becomes kind of a lifelong thing for him. So he paints these two large battlefield paintings. And I would encourage you to come back and get a better look at both of these. There's a lot of detail in each of them, some key figures, how these might have looked on that day. Now, we're gonna head downstairs and take a look at a few things on the ground floor, but before we do, be sure to take a look at the chandeliers in this room. We did open this building with electricity. Those were electrified in 1890, and see if you can see what word is spelled out in the lights.
Texas.
Because we do want you to know which capital you're in. So when a light bulb actually goes out, this was kind of a clever design. These were designed to be cranked down on a hand crank from above, so the light bulbs can be changed right there in front of you. No need for a big kind of sketchy ladder, but today it's actually done electronically. Now we're going to head out of this chamber. Be sure to be mindful of those steps once again. To the ground floor, also known as the basement of the historic Capitol. This was always intended to be a basement. However, this building was built for about 350 people to be working here with a little bit of extra room. But about 100 years later, there were about 1,300 people working here with absolutely no room. So this space had been converted into offices. All the way down these halls, there were these little office cubicles, you know, that nice paneled wood all set up, 1980s. And running overhead were some open and exposed wires, and this did contribute to a fire breaking out in 1983. Now, this really highlighted the need for more space, and during the 1990s, construction was underway on the Capitol extension. Now, this is a 4-story building completely underground, and we are going to head there next. But before we do, I'll tell you about these composites. You'll see these kind of as we move through the building, showing the House of Representatives and the Senate through the years, but people do tend to ask, who are the children on these composites? What are they doing there? What is their job? Well, their title is honorary mascots, and it's kind of an old tradition we have here in Texas. It goes back to 1917, and they just are there to kind of look cute. They're nominated for that position. And some of them have actually gone on to later serve in government themselves. So, just another little thing that we do here in Texas. But we'll head right this way. So before we head down into the modern building from the historic, I want to point out this display really quickly. These are Medal of Honor recipients who were born in and/or enlisted in Texas. They start chronologically over here with Milton Holland. He received his Medal of Honor during the Civil War, and he was actually born to an enslaved mother and a white father. Now, he does have a brother who's upstairs in that African American legislator's composite, so the Holland family is pretty prominent in Texas history. You'll also see over here on the top inner corner here is Audie Murphy. He is the most decorated soldier of World War II, and he's actually from the Dallas area. So I'd recommend coming back and getting a better look at this. It is an interactive display. You can spend a little more time with it. But we're going to go ahead and put these stores behind me here.
Thank you.
Two-thirds of the House of Representatives have their offices down here, and one-third of the Senate have their office space down here as well. So it really helps that overcrowding problem, and it also doesn't really feel like we're underground, thanks to these nice skylights. Now we have a pretty good view of our historic Capitol, and something interesting about our Capitol is that it has the distinction of being paid for in land instead of money. Now, we did not have a whole lot of money here in Texas during the later 1800s, but what we did have in abundance was land. And we kind of put it out there that we were looking for somebody to finance the building of our Capitol. What we would give them in return for this was a big chunk of land in the Panhandle, about the size of the state of Connecticut, or half of the country of Belgium. Now we only had 2 takers, and they were brothers. They were from Chicago, Illinois. Once again, we have a lot to thank Chicago, Illinois for. They took this deal, and they were developers, essentially. They had planned on kind of selling this land off and developing towns, counties there. However, they had never seen this land, and what they ended up doing was fencing it all off in barbed wire and running cattle there up until about 1912. Now this became known as the XIT Ranch, and to this day, those counties in that area still have parades celebrating the XIT Cowboys. And we have this lovely Capitol. And we also see from down here our Goddess of Liberty up on the top. She is our second goddess. The original was cast entirely out of zinc. She weighed about 2,000 pounds, and she was 15 feet 7 inches tall. Now, after about 100 years out in the weather, she was not doing so good, and restoration crews in the 1980s discovered this. So they decided to take her down, preserve her, and put up a new one. But as they're doing this, they discover in her star is a time capsule from the late 1800s. Now, it was pretty degraded, but it did have a few calling cards in it from here in Texas, some newspapers, as well as a German language newspaper from a settlement here in Texas as well. Now, this new goddess is made out of aluminum instead of zinc. She weighs about 1,100 pounds, and she is the same height. She does have a time capsule of her own, although we don't get to know what's in that just yet because there is no open date. But she is looking good and feeling good, watching over all of Austin and all of Texas, and that is where we would like her to stay. Now, you know a little bit more about the art and history of Texas after this tour. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please let me know, but that does conclude our tour for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That was such a great tour, you guys. I'm so glad I found them. I was just about to go back to my hotel, and then I saw a group and doing a tour, and I'm glad that I joined. It was very informative. I wouldn't be able to learn anything about this place unless I actually joined that group, so I'm glad that I did. All right, you guys, that concludes our flight attendant layover vlog. If you are still here and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And remember to share this with someone you love. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, JojoTV. Thank you very much for your time. Maraming salamat po. Mwah! All right, lunchtime, you guys. I'm gonna have this beautiful white rice with broccoli that I steamed and sauteed, and I add a little bit of everything but bagel seasoning. I have my gourmet Lego sardines right here. I'm gonna eat it straight from the can right there. Probably have about 4 pieces of sardines there. And I made myself some real coffee, not a decaf, with lots of creamer. Also have some sauerkraut here for condiments. And of course, my apple cider vinegar and some water. That is for my lunch. And look, this sardines is only $1.29. It used to be 99 cents. They actually increased their price a little bit, but still good.
You know that life's a magic circle, and it's my turn for a ride. I'm dusting out this bubble, and I'm flying on the tide. You can sit down with your trouble, but for me it's plain to see. This is my look, my life, my book. This is my destiny.